afternoon and welcome to CVM Live, the noon edition on CVM Television, online at cvmtv.com. And remember, you can download our CVM TV Smart app from the Google Play Store. I'm Whitney Leafy. We begin with breaking news at this time. More developments in what has been described as a scandalous mess. The government's failure to receive 200 pre-owned motor vehicles to the Jamaica Constabulary Force, despite receiving payment of more than $200 million. The opposition spokesman on industry investment and competitiveness, Peter Bunting, spoke with CVM Live a short while ago.
This used vehicle policy was flawed and ill-conceived from day one. The process of contracting, the procurement process, was very questionable. The capability of the selected supplier was also of concern, and therefore we are not surprised that the entire process has been bungled. But unfortunately, it is the Jamaican people who do not have the benefit of a well-mobilized or a properly mobilized police force that are paying the price in terms of a lack of safe communities with inadequate patrol vehicles and a lack of a quick response to incidents of shooting or robbery.
New development in Wednesday's breaking story in the case involving Reverend Rupert Clark. Gender Minister Olivia Babsy-Grange says sustained support has been offered to the family of the complainants involved in Reverend Clark's sex case. Reverend Clark, who is a former Moravian minister, yesterday pleaded guilty to 2 counts of having sex with a person under 16. Minister Grange made the disclosure at the recent launch of the model guidelines for sexual offense cases for the Caribbean region.
We have stayed with the family through to a present situation where we're working on ensuring that they get a new home, they're relocated, that all the girls in that home, they're either in school or they are getting training, and that the family will be settled to the extent where they are empowered. They are empowered that sexual abuse will not be something that they will easily accept, and that we will be able to remove one more family away from being victims of sexual abuse.
Reverend Clark decided to plead guilty after Assistant Director of Public Prosecutions Adley Duncan argued successfully for the case to be transferred from the St. Elizabeth Circuit Court to the Home Circuit Court in Kingston. The application for a change of venue was done in a push for all parties to have a fair trial. Kwesi Hart, who is charged with the murder of 14-year-old Jamaica College student Nicholas Francis, is scheduled to return to the Supreme Court today. One of his attorneys, Clive Mullings, will advise the court if he will proceed with a bail application. Mullings was recently assigned to the case and had asked for time to be briefed on the case file. In October, Hart's other attorney, Hadrian Christie, told the court that in late August, Hart was attacked and beaten by 3 inmates, and the police did not move to offer protection. Nicholas Francis was stabbed to death on October 26 last year on a bus after he refused to hand over his cell phone to a robber. Hart was on bail for shooting with intent and illegal possession of a firearm charge at the time of the incident. Hart is also charged with having sex with a minor. More violence on the northwestern end. The body of a man was discovered yesterday evening in Cops, Hanover. He has been identified as Rushton McIntyre, a rent-a-car agent. Reports are that about 6:15 p.m. residents heard explosions and called the police. The body of McIntyre was found with several gunshot wounds to the head. The matter is being investigated by the police. Poor relief officers of the Board of Supervision will be recertified with a certificate in human services, says Minister of Local Government and Community Development Desmond McKenzie. This he said at the Board of Supervision Awards and Recognition ceremony on Tuesday. This is in keeping with a recertification process that started in 2015. He says that work of the Board of Supervision is important.
It is not just about addressing the needs of the less fortunate in the society. It is also about ensuring that human dignity and human potential are maximized through the delivery of its services.
He also took the opportunity to laud the awardees for their achievement, calling them a national symbol and personal reminder of Jamaica's tremendous future.
This ceremony reflects our commitment to ensuring that all young people, regardless of their social background, are matured, supported, and encouraged to reach the greatest heights through education.
The ceremony was held under the theme Transforming Children Through Education. The re-imaging and reconstruction of a long-time attraction in the downtown Kingston area is being promoted by Mayor of Kingston, Delroy Williams, as he seeks to make Kingston the Pearl of the Antilles and a major tourist attraction. CVM Live's Joel Croskill reports.
Mayor of Kingston, Delroy Williams, is actively seeking out attractions to bolster the profile of downtown Kingston, and as such conducted a tour of the Bournemouth Bath facility on the waterfront.
It's an important facility that is owned by the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation. In fact, it was a donation to us in 1937. And the building was actually built in, the facility was actually built in 1926. So it has some history to it. It fits perfectly with the vision we have for downtown Kingston in terms of becoming a tourist destination.
Investor in the redevelopment of the facility, Leonard Green, spoke of his vision for returning the attraction to its former state of prominence.
We are currently working on rehabilitating the pools. We are setting up netball. Well, right now we have a little football court. We are setting up netball court. This is really going to be a lifestyle center encompassing entertainment, sports, and also we wanted a little commerce because, you know, Your Worship, we want to set up a facility where industrial fishing vessels can dock and offload their fish, also assisting food security.
Plans are in train to add an amphitheatre, from which cultural productions will further add to the allure of the site.
We have to ensure that we maintain our culture, our history, and we maintain what is indigenous to us. That is important while we build and modernize a city. And that is the reason why the city of Kingston has been placing special emphasis on establishing and renovating cultural spaces.
Joel Croskill, CVM Live.
On the international scene, US President Donald Trump has told UK Prime Minister Theresa May to focus on terrorism in her country after she criticized his sharing of 3 inflammatory videos posted online by a British far-right group. We have more from the BBC.
I'd like to start by saying how delighted I am that, as the leader of the free world, you took the time out to retweet 3 of my videos on Twitter today.
This is Jada Franzen, Deputy Leader of Britain First, an organisation set up by former members of the far-right BNP. Her posts that Donald Trump retweeted included footage alleging a Dutch boy in crutches was attacked by a Muslim immigrant. In fact, the assailant was born in the Netherlands. All this while the Prime Minister was visiting countries in the Middle East where the majority of their populations are Muslim. Her spokesman said that Donald Trump was wrong, but she probably wasn't expecting a reaction quite like this. Addressing the Prime Minister directly on Twitter, the President said, "Theresa May, don't focus on me, focus on the destructive radical Islamic terrorism that's taking place within the United Kingdom. We are doing just fine." So, no apology from him, and on her visit to Jordan today, the Prime Minister stood her ground too.
The fact that we work together does not mean that we're afraid to say when we think the United States have got it wrong, and to be very clear with them. And I'm very clear that retweeting from Britain First was the wrong thing to do.
Though she clearly wanted to contain the row.
Let me be clear about the relationship between the United Kingdom and the United States. This is a long-term special relationship that we have. It's an enduring relationship that is there because it is in both our national interests for that relationship to be there.
But using the President's preferred method of communication, the Community Secretary Sajid Javid was far more robust. He says POTUS has endorsed the views of a vile, hate-filled racist organisation that hates me and people like me. He's wrong, and I refuse to let it go and say nothing. Labour say it was a strategic error for Theresa May to have got so close so quickly to the new US President at the start of this year, and a state visit to the UK should never have been on the agenda.
She should never have invited him. She should never have invited him within a few weeks of him being elected. Every other American president has had to wait for years. They have to settle down, and we have to be sure about who it is that we're inviting, or who the Queen is inviting.
Meanwhile, the Home Secretary didn't seem at all certain about when he'd come.
Mr. Speaker, an invitation for the visit has been extended and accepted, but the dates and the precise arrangements have yet to be agreed.
The Prime Minister has been backed into a corner. She wants a post-Brexit trade deal with the US, but she would have faced huge criticism here at Westminster if she hadn't distanced herself from a president who has, in effect, distributed British far-right material to his 43 million followers on Twitter. It's difficult to see how you can defuse a diplomatic, or perhaps I should say, undiplomatic row like this.
In reality, there's very little that can be done. This is a president that is volatile. This is a president that clearly does not run through the layers of command when disseminating his thoughts. He simply goes through to a direct communication channel, namely Twitter. So it is difficult to know how this can be resolved very quickly unless Donald Trump himself wants it to be resolved.
And as the coverage on US television demonstrates, tensions remain strained between the traditional transatlantic allies. Ian Watson, BBC News.
U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations has asked countries to cut all ties with North Korea. This he said at a special UN Security Council meeting following North Korea's testing of a long-range missile on Wednesday. The BBC has more in this report.
North Korea says it's now a nuclear power. Yesterday's launch hailed by Pyongyang as a milestone. But what do the pictures released a day later actually tell us? The rocket, the Hwasong-15, is huge. Look at Kim Jong-un in the black coat. He's 5'7". Experts say the engine technology is new and the transporter longer than ever. But it's what we can't see that really matters. Was the tip heavy enough to simulate a nuclear warhead? North Korea says it was. Donald Trump has made thwarting the North Korean leader a top priority. It's not going so well.
Little rocket man. He is a sick puppy.
At the UN last night, fresh condemnation and more dire warnings.
The dictator of North Korea made a choice yesterday that brings the world closer to war. And if war comes, make no mistake, the North Korean regime will be utterly destroyed.
The North Korean leader seems less than intimidated. His latest rocket flew longer and higher than ever, with a range thought to be in excess of 8,000 miles. Kim Jong-un says he's achieved his nuclear ambitions. Most experts believe there's lots of difficult testing still to be done. But it's just possible that in the next 12 months or so, everybody, including Donald Trump, is going to have to get used to the fact that North Korea does indeed have usable nuclear weapons.
With that, we take a break on CVM Live, the noon edition. Do stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. It's now time for sports. Martin Lin is the new president of the Amateur Swimming Association. Lin easily turned back the challenge of incumbent Handel Lamy at last night's AGM at the Jamaica Olympic Association. Lin, who served as president for 2 terms, did not seek re-election in 2015 when Lamy was elected. Lin now joins us on the telephone to tell us more. Good afternoon, Mr. Lin.
Good afternoon, welcome.
After not seeking re-election back in 2015, why did you decide to return?
Well, there was an election in 2015. I decided to return because of the fact that I couldn't just sit back and allow what I consider to be problems in the current administration to continue, such as, just improper running of day-to-day activities of the ASAJ.
Right. Okay, now that you've been re-elected as president, what are your immediate plans?
Well, my immediate plans would be, the first thing is to ensure that transparency and integrity returns to the sport. And I'm going to do that by, first of all, having a complete overall audit of all the accounts and all of the finances of the ASAJ. The second thing I'm going to do is ensure sponsors that the ASAJ is alive and well, and that we're looking forward to their help to make sure that we bring aquatics back into the forefront as one of the major sports in Jamaica.
Right. And Mr. Lane, while the regular swimming program appears to be on track, synchronized swimming and water polo is almost at an all-time low. Do you agree that this needs attention?
Absolutely needs attention. And the fact is that I wouldn't say the same about water polo, because we have gone to major meets with water polo and won medals. So water polo is not entirely, dormant. Lance Rochester, my vice president of water polo, has done an admirable job and continues to do so. What it does mean, though, is that my current administration will focus on other disciplines of aquatics and bring them all up into the fore as well, which includes diving, by the way. You missed diving.
Right. Okay,
yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lin. When a national senior coach, Theodore Whitmore, was prevented from watching an Isaflow Super Cup game earlier this season, several persons blamed the JFF for not having anything in place. Well, not so, says JFF President Michael Ricketts.
The JFF's policy is that all national coaches must be accorded the privilege of entry anywhere football is being played. I would want to think that if Whitmore is on his way from Montego Bay into Kingston and he heard that there's a game in Clarendon and there might be a player there that he has an interest in or would want to see, then certainly he has a right to stop and be respected enough to be allowed entry so that at least he can have a look at that player. And not just Whitmore.
A colourful launch highlighted the 2017-18 CASAFA Major League at the J. Ray and Neville New Kingston offices. The Major and the Super Leagues will be sponsored for just under $8 million, an increase of $1 million.
Of the $7.75 million for both competitions, 1.5 will go towards prize money, $1 million for the Super League and $565,000 to the Major League. All the participating clubs, 18 Major League and 12 Super League, will each get $35,000 for club infrastructure.
In light of Ray and Neville's contribution of $0.17 million, sponsoring both leagues, this season will be called the 2017/2018 Magnum Super and Major League competition. The front of the shirts will be branded with the Magnum brand, the Charles JD Rum brand on the sleeves, and the Charles Chocolate and Sunshine Snack on the shoulder of the gears.
CASAFA will take care of the referee fees, while Western Sports will provide all the match balls for both competitions.
I'd like to implore the teams and management to respect the referee's decision and ensure that they are comfortable and safe at the venues. Please remember, we cannot have the games without referees. So teams, it's our responsibility to make sure that we take care of them.
It will be the third and final year of a 3-year sponsorship deal with J. Ray Group under their brand Magnum as title sponsors, along with Charlie's JB Rum.
We know what this sport means for Jamaica. We always mention it is our favorite pastime activity. But, for Jamaicans it is, right? And Mr. Shaw spoke about what it does for the communities. It's not just even playing the sport, but it's also the role that all the fathers do in terms of being a mentor and all of that. contributes to social development. So that is really great. And we know what football is. It's passion. It's fueled by, pure passion. And that will continue to live on.
Charles Chocolate will be the associate sponsor for the Super and the Major Leagues, which is set to kick off on December 10.